Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm here with Martin, who is our head of product over at AngelBlock. So all of the features that you know and love, they come from out of his fingers. Also, if you have any, if you want to shout at him, he's also a very good person to shout at if something isn't working the way that you would like it to work. But we decided to jump on this call and kind of do utilize what January should be utilized for, which is kind of look back at the previous year, 2023, and how it looked from a macro perspective, not just for crypto, but also for Angel Block specifically. So that's here what we're going to do. So we have some questions that we have prepared. I know that some of them have also been asked on the Telegram and probably Twitter. By the way, I refuse to call it X. I'm just going to call it Twitter. Now I understand my parents when they use terminology from 30, 40 years ago and don't want to change. It's that moment for us. So we're going to kick it off with some questions. I think Martin has the first one. If you want to kick it off, my friend.
Yeah, 2023, what a year that has been, both in crypto space and for our company. We had few breakthroughs, and what's been the most important for AngelBlock from your perspective, Alex?
I think what's been the most important is not necessarily what people want to hear. It's not like the most sexiest. I kind of draw parallels to A0 launching, mainnet, which is an important step, but it's still not, a lot of in crypto, we have very short attention spans in general. And we want an L1 to like launch and it to look like Ethereum does right now, forgetting that it has, like ecosystem building since the last like 8, 9 years, 10, almost 10 years, right? So it's that kind of element, and I think that you need to go through those steps in order to be a viable product in this space. So for me, in 2023, I've always viewed it as this proof of concept year for us. So make sure that the protocol works the way that it was designed to work, and those things obviously take time. My previous experiences like in centralized exchanges as well, like I did that for a long time in crypto, and that's why I don't like that comparison to like launch pads or to any kind of service that is actually a custodian of funds, because they do not have the same integration level with other chains and deposits and being a custodian as something that is on chain does. So before you push something out on chain, before you make something accessible, decentralized, and immutable, like if your code is not up to par, if it has not been tested, if it has not been pen tested by people, like you don't know like how many users it can actually process, all of those hacks and exploits get immutable as well on chain. You're uploading something that's very, very, very difficult to change in the future. So for me, just the launch of raises and the entire milestone governance aspect and everything around that was the single most important part. So not just having it available, but actually combining those aspects and layers of working with projects and offering those projects in a decentralized, non-custodial way to users, because that's something that you can build upon, right? So for me, that was the absolute single most important thing. So we got through, those couple, and now we can focus on scaling and building on top of what we did in 2023. So Martin, maybe a bit from another perspective, I'll ask you, what was the most difficult part of 2023 for AngelBlock and the team?
I'm going to state obvious, which is situation on the market. I mean, as we're in the investment space, then amount of investment in this area was pretty much limited from different funds as well as private investors. So we were doubtful about launching MVP in the right time and moment in a space. So it's all about timing. But fortunately, once we did our first fundraise for stable, we reached a really good result, 56K. for first startup, and that allowed us to test the market in rough conditions, adjust both investment process to investors as well as startups onboarding to the platform. That took few back and forth discussions and adjustments within the system itself. Yeah, so actually that's linked to what you just said, which is a significant milestone, releasing MVP to the rough seas that we had in 2023. So yeah, we obviously, the second thing is within our team, I would say. So just something behind the scenes. So as we started working all together in 2022, but then significant proportion of building the product happened last year. So obviously it's about individuals, how they act together, how they react to market conditions, external factors, as well as internal needs. So I think that after last year, we are pretty well-performing team of developers, designers, the marketing team, everyone working in the company now knows each other well and knows how to react to certain situations. So releasing MVP and other things that happen from that, we learned a lot. Yeah, so but talking about external landscape to external to the company, and looking forward, what you think was the most significant event in the crypto space in 2023?
Yeah, I was actually waiting. I didn't even like say like uh-huh or yeah to what you were saying, even though I wanted to agree, because I think one of the overarching themes of this call and the questions that we have, they really do tie into pretty much singular or singular or close to singular endpoints. And when it comes to I don't really have like a singular, like one most important event in crypto in 2023, but it does directly tie into what you just mentioned. And to be honest, as someone who's been in this space for quite some time, I do remain optimistic as my default state. That being said, I am quite surprised at fundraising in 2023 as a whole. Basically, I think like one of the remaining 2-3 people that I respect who are big players in this space, who I still respect, one being Kobe, another one being Chris Berniski. Kind of everybody else like always stumbles sooner or later if they're a big account on crypto Twitter. But he mentioned something that like right now a lot of private rounds in crypto are heavily oversubscribed, which is, you know, back in October of last year, this was not the case. So a mere few months ago, you still had really good teams who were finding it difficult to raise funds, right? And we're a few months removed from that event. So if I were to kind of summarize like what was most impactful, like de facto most impactful, is the fact how mature this market, crypto as a whole, has become in the last, you know, especially decade, and yet how prone even something like fundraising by good teams and good projects and projects that are actually needed in this space, how dependent that is on these 4-year cycles that we find ourselves in, these 2-year bull, 2-year bear cycles, and just how detrimental lack of sentiment can be, right? So that's definitely surprising. I know I talked about this in, I think, even both panels I had back in Barcelona end of last year, where if you look at, you know, fundraising in crypto is very, very difficult to have statistics and data that is incredibly uniform and doesn't deviate, doesn't have really large margins for error. I would first premise it by saying this, because this is very, very important. These statistics are, they do fluctuate, and different outlets do have different statistics. But if we look at something like DeFi Llama, which I've come to find, it's pretty good when it comes to month-on-month macro investing in crypto as a whole. Obviously, you do have to either add, like 20 mil or 100 mil here and there, but it's still a pretty good baseline. We had last year in 2023, we had months in crypto where the last time we had fundraising at such low levels was either 2020 pre-bull, or maybe very, very early 2021. So from a fundraising perspective, it can be in a way disheartening to see that even though the market is maturing, there are these moments where if you launch at the wrong time, and it's not about team, it's not about product, if you launch at the wrong time, it just might be incredibly difficult to raise. And I think that is incredibly impactful, but it's also what surprised me the most, because I would never, ever imagine crypto valuations, like crypto projects, still being near $1 trillion and having months where there's only like $180 million in fundraising for the whole market, right? Like that's ridiculous. That is just crazy to me. So I think that's, when it comes to importance and surprise, I think that's what I would put my money on, to be honest. And from a speculative perspective, I would also say smart contracts on A0, but that's totally separate. It also impacts what we're doing here in many different ways. So coming back at you with another one, what changes and differences do you expect from the crypto market between last year and this year? Ooh, so comparisons 2023 to 2024. I'm actually really curious to see what you have to say about this.
Yeah, so actually, as a follow-up of your thought, it's also good to raise in the right moment. So I'd expect this year will be much better for fundraising for new startups. But at the same time, I think we'll see much less optimism among investors, much more validation for the startups to come, to avoid any scams, and actually to fund good ideas. And on this note, obviously, with growing market, I think we'll still see crypto space as an alternative to classical financing, I would say, as it grew from almost the beginning, but also significantly, I think it will be populating and taking over new areas. Like, for instance, we'll have dispersed network for AI, as we already see some projects building towards improving AI. Maybe we'll find other implications for blockchain. So yeah, I think those are three main directions that the market will grow in 2024.
Yeah, I actually stopped using ChatGPT at all, and I'm only, for the last month or two, I've only been using Corsal, like one of the subnets on BitTensor. Like honestly, like, because one of my cards expired, and it's the card that I used for my ChatGPT subscription, and like I haven't even noticed, like, to be honest, like I just realized this the other day. So I'm very bullish on that as well. It's a cool space.
Yeah, that's right. A lot is happening right now in open source models, and it seems that some of them perform better than what OpenAI delivers. And obviously, it can be placed anywhere either on a server or a dispersed network. So both financing that and performance of machine learning models can be placed in blockchain.
But that being said, one thing that we saw in 2023 that I hope doesn't go into 2024 is the amount of BS in crypto AI space, and more specifically, well, just in the AI space, but you have overcrowded funding rounds for companies, like I've seen this and it's horrifying, for companies that are ChatGPT wrappers, but now
Mhm.
suddenly they're an AI company, right? Like it's just, come on now, don't give me
Yeah, I
that.
think people learn quickly about what's
Hope
really
so.
valuable and what's not. Yeah, for sure, we'll see. But that will also, I hope that will appear on AngelBlock as well. That will have option to validate some AI focused project and get financing round through AngelBlock. We'll see. That's a good trend. Yeah, let's go to the next one. What is good coming for us in 2024?
Yeah, and this is something that I definitely like. I'll start us off, but I would love for you to jump in because I know you do have a bit of a different perspective on this. But again, everything kind of ties into things that we've said in the beginning, and now we're kind of expanding on them. But if we're looking at, I would even go so far to say like everything that's good is coming this year. Like not to say that what was in 2023 and what was delivered in 23 wasn't good. It's just that it's building blocks, right? So again, if you're comparing this to like an L1, right? So first you launch testnet, then you launch mainnet, then you launch smart contracts. Once you launch smart contracts, then you can incentivize developers to come and start building an ecosystem, right? So everything has its proper place and time in development, especially in development in crypto. And building a project such as AngelBlock is no different, right? There are these foundational building blocks that you just can't skip over when building and developing something like this. So for us, it was obviously launching proof of concept, and that proof of concept being built on Ethereum, being EVM compatible. Then you start building out these multi-chain integrations, right? You start building out all these things that we've set out to build from day one, but you just need the right place and right time, and especially right team in order to deliver on those milestones. So for us, especially something that I'm personally very, very excited is the Zero integration. And when I say Zero integration, that's just because we're already talking with a lot of projects building within the Zero ecosystem. And because that's what's right around the corner, right? So I would say Zero integration, but not being limited to the integration of dozens of other chains, right? So it's not just like, oh, we integrated A0 and what's coming next, right? It's no, we integrated EVMs, A0, and a bunch of other stuff that's going to be integrated in the very near future. So I think that's a very pretty important point to emphasize on a call such as this. So I would definitely say A0 integration. I would say more projects, more robust fundraising goals and fundraising rounds. I think that's very, very important, whether it be additional features on AngelBlock or additional features for the token. Things like, if someone's been in our community or read our documentation, like, what's coming, like, what we've been working on. But yeah, I would, as an important kind of point for what's coming in 2024 that's around the corner, I would definitely focus on Zero. Like, I think, strictly speaking, as an investor and more from a speculative point of view, it seems like one of those ecosystems that is waiting to explode is A0. Like,
Mhm.
you've seen, Cosmos kind of going nuts in the last few months, especially with like Celestia and Injective, which are built on, Cosmos SDKs. You see a lot of these ecosystems becoming more mature, which is, again, lifecycle building blocks, points that we already mentioned in this call. And I think that A0 is about to have that moment with Common launching, with an Ethereum to A0 bridge. So a lot of things to be really, really excited about, especially in what ways that ecosystem kind of plugs into what we've been building for 3 years, right?
Yeah, absolutely. As Ethereum is still the major player on the market, then there are many good alternatives and amazing ideas that we've been working with, amazing teams creating on alternative chains, being cheaper, faster, specialized in certain areas, etc. So right now, building cross-chain integration, that's really significant milestone for us because it allows us to support other startups, not only from Ethereum ecosystem. We also want to be faster and cheaper. So just after initial integration, I would add a next step, which will come this year, which is making it available to pay in dollars for cross-chain transactions on AngelBlock. Yeah, it will bring obvious utility for the token itself, but also make it easier to invest cross-chain. And third thing, we're building for and with an amazing community that is active on our channels. And I'm always saying that. So whenever we have a question, we ask them. We have amazing engagement, discussions, etc. So at some point, we probably want to engage them in validation process for startups, reward them with dollars, obviously, but also have them play significant role as validators. And it will first allow us to scale up the project. Then secondly, will be additional benefit for the community itself. And the third factor is that startups that apply for our programs will get feedback from various actors, not only us right now, but we'll know better how to build in the future, adjust project, and get better funding. So I think that's this is gonna come in this year in AngelBlock itself, and will push us forward.
I like that.
Yeah, so the last question we have is, we covered lots of that, but why a person should be interested in following the development of our protocol this year?
Like, that's such a loaded question, you know? Like, I always think of that in a way, like one of my favorite loaded questions that I've used many times in my life is, have you stopped beating your wife yet? Because it implies, like, if you say yes, I've stopped, it implies you've already, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
you're already implying that you beat your wife in that, the structure of that question, right? So like, oh, why should I be interested? It's like, well, if you've been in our community, I think you know what's coming. Or this call has definitely, you're able to see more into what's coming. But all in all, I think that if you look at market life cycles, I think I'll compare it to this. If you look at development of new technology and how that can be charted on a graph, especially. So right now, Bitcoin is a great example of this. You have the early adopters, right? And then you have the early majority, and then it kind of, it goes like this, kind of peaks. Then you have the laggards, and like right now, like even with Bitcoin, it is still quite early, even though that's a cliche that I absolutely hate. That has kind of bled in from the NFT space of always being, we're still early and all that. But if you're looking at an exchange traded product that has been approved by the SEC that's currently on the US markets with spot Bitcoin ETFs, like 11 being approved last week, right? You could make the argument that those are a lot of people who do have accounts with BlackRock or Fidelity. You could consider this as the laggards. So the last phase of that adoption life cycle graph, going and coming into Bitcoin, or having the possibility to have Bitcoin exposure. So I would kind of compare that to where we are, because life cycles, products, tech, everything's very similar. So if you've been a early adopter, like right now, we should be, in theory at least, kind of going into this early majority phase, and product is definitely supporting that thesis, because we've gone through like 2 years of painful bull markets with development, with putting out proof of concept, minimal viable product, onboarding users, doing exactly what we set out to do 3+ years ago. So having all of those facets fine-tuned and available at scale to a larger number of people is exactly what you want to see in any crypto project. That's how I would summarize it in a kind of convoluted way, but I do like a little bit of convolution when I talk.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what hasn't, I mean, it applies to both our product, but also to other startups that will launch on our platform, I believe. I mean, that's why we're here. I mean, we'll announce a few collaborations in upcoming weeks and months. And yeah, becoming investor on AngelBlock.
Yeah, I heard it's getting dark in Poland.
Oh yeah, it is a little bit.
It's getting dark. Yeah, might get
It's
dark for
getting dark,
AngelBlock as well.
definitely. And we'll announce how dark it's getting soon. So that's really cool. Yeah, and I hope it's gonna bring some benefits to our investors as well.
Yeah, I mean that's why we're here. We want to make people happy. We want to make it a safer place. You know, we want startups to deliver what they promised they would deliver, right? And those things just take time. It's that simple. Like especially when you're developing for things that are meant to be on chain, right? Like if you're a centralized custodian, like I've seen this over the last decade being in crypto, almost a decade being in crypto, and it's just like these hot fixes for centralized custodian solutions are much easier. They're much cheaper. They're much simpler. And DeFi just simply does not have that luxury, you know. So it's that simple. Like it's not a sexy answer. It's not like this, oh my God, revelation, but that's just how it is. I mean, it's the same thing with Zero. Like I know we have like a lot of people in our community are very bullish on A0 and they love A0, but it's the same thing. Like whenever I see someone saying, oh, like development's taking, so long, it's like, it's really not. It's like you need to know what you're deploying.
Exactly. You want it to be secured, right? And security comes only with testing and fixing. I mean, you must fail a few times, hopefully on testnet rather than mainnet, to make sure that everything works fine. And yeah, fine-tuning takes time.
I'll take slow development any day of the week over Luna.
Absolutely.
Like it's that simple. It's really that simple. Sorry,
exactly. We had few bad examples in the space, so yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you. We'll be doing these more often. It's probably not always going to be me. It's not always going to be Martin. So the same formula that we kept from last year. We want to kind of get exposure to other team members, get their input. We do have different departments in this company, so I think it's really, really important to share those perspectives with everyone here. But we are doing these pretty regularly. Kate is kicking our butts and making sure that we do it. So thank you for tuning in, and we hope that we answered your questions, and we'll probably do another one of these in a few weeks. So thanks, Martin, and thanks everyone that watched. Cheers.
Thanks, bye.